Hello, welcome. Thanks for coming. My name's Manish. I'm a product manager on Lakeflow. With me here today is
My name is Andreas Maier. I'm team lead at the data science and AI team with Porsche Informatik. I'll be filling in the second half of the talk on how we actually leverage Lakeflow Connect for our customer-facing use cases.
awesome. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
As with all of these presentations, the content we're presenting is forward-looking, so it's probably going to change, and we generally change it based on feedback from the folks in this room. So if you have feedback, talk to your account teams. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what we're doing, and we'll adjust based on what you want to see from us. So with that, the agenda today is we're going to start sort of at the high level of what is Lakeflow, and then we'll sort of narrow in. We'll go into Lakeflow Connect, which is a piece of our Lakeflow product, which is our data engineering experience. And then we'll do a sort of a deep dive within Lakeflow on SaaS connectors. Lakeflow Connect is our ingestion part of Lakeflow, which has all sorts of different types of connectors. SaaS connectors are just one kind. Then we'll do a quick demo, probably 2 to 3 minutes, and then I'll hand off to Andreas, who will share how he and Porsche Holding is using Lakeflow Connect, and we'll close out with some recommendations. And then we'll do some Q&A on the floor, so we'll close up, and then we'll just kind of do some sort of natural question and answer. Okay, so let's start with what's Lakeflow. So Lakeflow is our vision of a unified end-to-end data engineering solution. And so the idea here is you should be able to do all of the different steps in a data engineering use case, from ingestion to transformation to orchestration and monitoring, in a single experience. So when you look at like traditional data engineering stacks that you see in the wild today, and this includes sort of our customers on Databricks, is we see sort of this piecemeal of a bunch of different tools. You have a different tool for CI/CD. You have a tool for orchestration, like an Airflow. You might have a different ingestion tool. But the reality is all those tools were never really built to work together. And so you end up sort of linking these things together in brittle ways, and as a result, you get these data engineering stacks that are actually really hard to manage. So the idea with Lakeflow is to give you that single tool chain, where you have a single thing all the way through to do your data engineering use cases. Today, we're going to focus on Lakeflow Connect, and specifically SaaS connectors within Lakeflow Connect. So these are like Salesforce, Workday. This is where like sort of customer data or employee data, event data might be stored within your organizations. So before we get into that, why are we building these? Why are we building these SaaS connectors? These SaaS connectors have been around for a while. When we talk to customers, what they told us is like, yeah, we could probably build one connector and kind of handle it. But the reality is, there's a lot of these sources that you have to connect to. On average, it's probably 5, maybe a handful, or even 2 handfuls of connectors. And what makes it challenging is that all of these sources are actually a little different. They're unique in their own ways. And so figuring out how to connect to them and pull data reliably across all these sources suddenly becomes a pretty complex thing. And so there's sort of 3 sort of core problems that we've seen here. The first is, if you want to build these connectors, you have to build them. It's actually pretty hard. So some sources, you may have multiple APIs. And one API may be fast and give you a certain amount of data. Another API may be slower and give you a different set of information. And then you may have to join that data together. And so figuring out how to query these APIs in the right way to get the sort of performance and the data you need can get complicated. Then there's the aspects around quota and limits and throttling. So all of these different APIs have different forms of sort of protecting their APIs from being overloaded. So if you happen to connect to an API and send like 1,000 requests right away, you might chew up all your quota, and then you're stuck for like 30 days before you can actually query again. So you want to know those nuances on that. Another thing around these connectors is you're not going to want to sort of reload all the data every time. Right? So there's this idea of incrementalization and being efficient in terms of what you pull from your SaaS applications and put into Databricks. And so you have these things called cursors. These are ways to sort of identify what has changed since the last time I ran the data. This varies widely across SaaS applications. And then there's like auth options. As we've been building these connectors, we've realized that depending on the sort of industry that is using these connectors, there's different auth models. And so you may end up having to implement like 2 or 3 different types of ways of authenticating with the SaaS application that you're trying to pull data from. And what this really means is like it's going to take a development team a bunch of time to build these things. And that's going to slow you down because you won't be able to just hop in and grab your data from, say, Salesforce or Workday right away and get going. The second issue is that they're difficult to maintain. And the idea here is like, I kind of describe it as like an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg that's above the water is the difficulty in building. What's under the water, which a lot of times is a lot bigger, is actually the maintenance that comes with it. And so these APIs change all the time, right? So there's going to be schema evolution. A new column might be added, or a column data type might change. These things can cause your pipelines to fail unless you have sort of logic to handle it. These APIs go through upgrades periodically throughout the year. Like Google Analytics, you'll see upgrades on the API like on a quarterly basis. And then trying to scale all of that across all of those sources, it gets really hard. So you could imagine, like imagine if you had like 6 sources, and those 6 sources each had 2 sort of breaking updates throughout the year. Best case, every month you're dealing with something where you need to prevent an outage on one of your data sources. In worst case, you've got 12 showing up on the same day and your team is overrun. Obviously, those are the extremes. It's somewhere in between. But I think you get it, right? Like this means you have to carve out a team that is effectively maintaining these connectors ongoing 24/7. The other weird thing about it is because these connectors are so specialized or sort of niche in a way, what we found is a lot of customers end up with specialized people. So there's an engineer that understands Workday. There's an engineer that understands Salesforce. If one of those persons out, it's hard for other people to fill in because of how domain specific it is. And the last thing around these connectors is they're difficult to govern. And the idea here is you sort of have this hodgepodge of different implementations of different connectors that are trying to pull data from different sources. You don't have a single way to look at lineage. You don't have a single way to say, like, I want to make sure that this Salesforce connection is not allowed anymore. You can't do that because it's been kind of spread and diffused throughout all these different pieces of code. And the ultimate risk here is that you now have security vulnerabilities, right? You don't know who's accessing what. Some people may have some old credentials that still have access to an instance that might have some PII data that you were trying to lock down. And that's what's unfortunate is like when you look at the data in these applications, there are so many valuable use cases that you can come from here. So Andreas is going to talk about a 360 use case, but you could think of like an HR analyst that's trying to understand trends in their workforce, or an engineering team that's trying to do an internal chatbot with unstructured data to create like a RAG type of use case. This all is sort of slowed down or even prevented when you're not able to get access to that data. So this has been a problem for a long time, right? Like these SaaS applications have existed for a long time. So why now? Well, at Databricks, we've been kind of working on it for a while, and we've been kind of trying to tackle it in different layers, depending on how people, or what kind of level of control and customization and ease of use customers want. We started with structured streaming. This is a low-level API for streaming ingestion. It's super powerful. You can do it in Scala, Java, Python, control, state, checkpointing. But you really need to be an expert. You really need to understand how streaming works and be a programmer to understand how to actually do it right. And so what we heard from customers was they wanted something a little easier. They were doing things over and over and over, like fault management or auto scaling, or even doing like data quality checks to say like, hey, if this thing doesn't look like, it doesn't have this form, it should fail and get quarantined. So they came to us and they were asking for that. And that's why we built Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines. Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines, it was formerly known as Delta Live Tables or DLT. Tomorrow you'll see we're going to be rebranding, renaming it to Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines. But it's a declarative framework for defining and building scalable, efficient ETL pipelines. And so what that means is all you need to say, like in structured streaming, you'd be like, here's how you would go do and pull the data, and you describe each step and how it would work. With a declarative framework, you just say, this is what I want the data to look like. And then Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines will figure out the best way to do it. It'll figure out how to connect. It'll figure out how to incrementalize. It'll figure out the dependencies. It'll figure out how to run the actual work on a node and use that compute efficiently. So we launched that a few years ago. And even then, we still heard customers ask for more. And what they were saying was like, well, we want something even easier, something that's sort of point and click, something where we don't even carry the pager. We just set it up, and it just runs, and we don't have to worry about it. And that's what Lakeflow Connect and our managed SaaS connectors are. So the way to think about it is sort of like almost like a layer cake. If you want sort of like that full control, that customization to really get into like the knobs, Spark, and really get specific for your use cases, that's structured streaming. And at the top is a much more managed experience where you don't have as much customization. There's still some knobs that you can play with, but it's much more restrictive. But it's fully managed, so you don't have to worry about it. You know that like Databricks is there watching it and making sure that data is moving from the application to your Delta tables. So let me dive into Lakeflow Connect now. So Lakeflow Connect is about simple connectors for anyone, right? So the idea here is to make it more accessible to a broader set of users, not just the people that know how to code, or even use a declarative framework like Lakeflow declarative pipelines. So Lakeflow Connect is three things. It's about simple, low maintenance connectors. It's unified with the Lakehouse, and it's efficient end to end. So let me talk about these in a little more detail. So simple and low maintenance, this is about having less headaches, right? So you don't have to worry about different things like the things we talked about with schema evolution or fault tolerance or things like that. Those things are just handled for you, which means you can start pulling data from these SaaS applications faster, and more of your users, less technical users, can do this as well. So more folks in your organizations can actually make use of data very quickly. So tactically, what that means is like schema evolution, right? The columns change, or type widening when a column type might change. These are things that Connect can handle for you. Observability and retries are built right into the sort of control plane for Lakeflow Connect, so you know those pipelines are being monitored and watched. You have the ability to map schemas through a UI, and Lakeflow Connect will handle all that mappings for you. One of the interesting ones here is SCD type 2. This is like a way of tracking changes. As data changes, you can kind of see the history. This is actually pretty hard to implement. In Lakeflow Connect, you check a box, and now as you're pulling data from whatever application, it's actually tracking the changes for you in an SCD2 format. It's actually really powerful. And it's all wrapped in a simple UI and API. The second thing is unified with the Lakehouse. And so the idea here, as I kind of mentioned it earlier, is we want you to have a single sort of tool chain. So you don't have to have multiple tools that do similar things, and then you have to somehow link them together so they kind of integrate. And so Lakeflow Connect is integrated into the Databricks data intelligence platform. So it works with Unity Catalog. So for example, if you create an ingestion pipeline, and then you want to do some tasks to like maybe transform it, get to a gold state, and then sort of refresh the dashboard. End-to-end Unity Catalog lineage will show you that from the ingestion point all the way to the consumption point in a dashboard. Another one is Lakeflow Jobs. This is the orchestration layer for Databricks and Lakeflow. Ingestion tasks, or Lakeflow Connect ingestion tasks, are just a task within Lakeflow Jobs. So you can create a task and have things that fire after it. You can have things that go before it, but you can fully orchestrate around the ingestion. And then there's Databricks asset bundles. This is about CI/CD. This is about the ability to sort of like define an environment that you want to materialize in a consistent way across your dev, test, prod environments. It integrates with Databricks asset bundle, so you can just define the pipeline and you can materialize it. So for across those things, you have a single set of tools to do these things. And then it's about efficient end-to-end. And the idea here is lower cost, better performance, so it's faster, and it can scale to a larger set of data. And the way we do that is we try to incrementalize everything. So don't waste compute. If we don't need to pull extra data out of the SaaS application because we already pulled it last time, don't pull it. Save that compute. So we incrementalize the reads. And what's interesting here, we've kind of alluded to it, is like you kind of need to understand the different SaaS applications in terms of how to understand that cursor and what will work in terms of incrementalization. And then once we do that, we will incrementally write. So we're not going to write all of the data. We only need to update the things that have changed. And I think the other cool thing is, since it's integrated with Databricks, once you have that data landed, you can then create materialized views downstream of that data. Those materialized views only update, so they're just materializing the changes. So it's only going to look at the changes that have happened. So that means from the ingestion all the way to sort of materialization for your BI reports or whatever your use case might be, it's sort of being fully incrementalized end to end. And it's important, like if you do incrementalization, it's important that the pricing model maps to that. right? And so this was something that we've worked through, and I'm excited to say like we're introducing a simple compute-based pricing model. So you're not paying for sort of volume or rows. It's whatever is being used to pull the data, write the data, persist the data. That's what you're paying. And it's also based on, for the SaaS connectors, it's also based on serverless. And so that means that you don't have to provision like a compute cluster and then try to drive efficiency on that compute cluster. The serverless compute will come up, it'll do the work, it'll go away. It should be really efficient and it should sort of tie to the value of the data that you're pulling in. Okay, so let's do a deep dive on the SaaS connectors themselves. So the way to think about a Lakeflow Connect SaaS connector is there's two components. There's a connection and a ingestion pipeline. The connection is a UC connection, a Unity Catalog connection. It holds the information in terms of how to connect to the SaaS application. So authentication credentials, the URL of the destination of what you're trying to connect to. And then there's the ingestion pipeline. This is the thing that accrues the cost of sort of the compute of doing the work. It uses the UC connection to connect to the SaaS application, incrementalize the reads, and then incrementalize the writes downstream. One of the things I want to highlight is because we're using the UC connections, you can imagine a world where you have that central point of governance. If for any reason a certain application you need to shut down, if you centralize your UC, you can go to this connection and basically say no more. And then all downstream pipelines that are using it are no longer able to pull that data. So it gives you sort of these control points to make sure that you have control of your data and you can secure it when and if you have to. So I alluded to this one a little bit before. So this is an example of ingestion pipelines working with Lakeflow jobs. So in this scenario, you can see an ingestion pipeline is pulling data. You can imagine it's pulling data. Once it completes, you can have Lakeflow jobs orchestrate another task, like go ahead and transform the data. And then task 3 could be email. After it's done, go ahead and email my manager that the data is ready for this person to go use. One of the things we heard was that this sort of tight coupling it's useful if you're doing the ingestion and the transformation all together. But in many cases, there's a team that does the ingestion, and separately, there's another team that is waiting to see the data actually refresh, and then they go in and do it. And so this tight coupling wasn't actually a great use case. Because it's built on Lakeflow jobs, there's a whole bunch of orchestration mechanisms available or primitives in Lakeflow jobs that you can leverage. So in this case, we've sort of separated the two concerns. So the ingestion pipeline is dropping data into your bronze table. And then you have jobs or workflows that have been created using table triggers. So that the job 1 on the top is basically saying, anytime there's a change, I want to wake up and go ahead and process it. So you can almost kind of think of it as like a continuous pipeline that's processing. And then job 2 is saying after 60 seconds, I don't want to just keep churning. I want 60 seconds of changes to happen. Then I'll process it. And then if another record comes, I'll just wait another 60 seconds to do it. And then if nothing comes, it'll wait and wait and wait. And then if a record comes, it'll then wait the 60 seconds and fire. So it's a way to almost batch the processing of your data. And so this is an example of Databricks asset bundles. So this is about CI/CD. The idea here is it just works with dabs. So if you're familiar with dabs, you put the definition of the Databricks asset, in this case, the Lakeflow Connect ingestion pipeline, into the YAML. And then that YAML can be integrated with CI/CD automated CI/CD tools like Azure DevOps or Git Actions, things like that. And so you can just automate your sort of dev to test to production flows. And so there's also additional features here. I'll kind of describe how it works, and I think it'll kind of give a sense of how it all comes together. So it's incremental data pulls. So the idea here is on that very first run, you do a full pull of the data. So that's what we call a full refresh. After that, it's going to keep running, and you're going to get incremental data pulls from it. If things happen, you will get automated failure recovery. So we'll be watching, and so sometimes these APIs disappear, and then they come back. So you'll have these auto retries and things like that. So these pipelines will come. Over a period of time, if it stays down, you'll get alerted that there's a problem and it needs your attention. We've talked about it as well, like as columns or field types change, you'll get automatic schema evolution, and then cost monitoring. So once it's been running for a while, you probably want to know what it's costing you or how many DBUs it's pulling. So integrated into the sort of cost management system of Databricks under the Lakeflow Connect tag, you can see all of the consumption that's happening. Okay, let me do a quick demo. So this is the Lakeflow Connect wizard. So you can see it's a 4-step wizard that is, the first step is you're basically creating the ingestion pipeline name and you're giving the UC connection. In this case, there's a connection called Elise demo that exists, but within the UI, you can click create connection, and that will bring up the UC connection that allows you to then figure out, that allows you to just reuse connections in a centralized way. Okay, so we're going to go create the pipeline here. And so what's happening here is customers told us that they don't want to just bring everything from the source. They want to be able to pick the tables, the columns, and things like that. So what's happening here is not the actual ingestion pipeline. There's a little bit of compute getting spun up to allow us to go query the source and bring back the sort of the schema and structure of the SaaS application. Okay, so there it goes. So you can see a whole bunch of tables came in. You have the ability to search. You can see all the different tables from Salesforce here. So you can pick the tables you want, and then you also have a column selector with sort of wild tags, so you can do like sort of matching on tags and things like that as well. In this case, we just pulled a couple fields. You click next. So now you're going to map it to where you want to put it in your Delta table. So in Databricks, what's the schema that you want to actually persist the data in? You get to create that, create the schema, and then you just move forward, save and continue. And then this is where you set up the sort of the scheduling and alerting. Oh, sorry, it's still going here. Okay, there it goes. So you have the ability to set the schedule, and this is sort of like it has a cron syntax, so you have really like a breadth of formats. If you know the cron syntax, it's a little complicated, but if you know it, you can kind of put any type of pattern you want. You can set notifications, and you hit create. At this point, this is where the pipeline is actually spinning up. It's going to spin up actual Databricks compute to go do the work and connect to the source. Okay, so really quickly, I'm running a little late, so I'm going to go a little quicker here. The way we think about roadmaps is it's about breadth and depth. And so one of the things we're doing is we're going to be adding more SaaS connectors over time. Last year we didn't have any in GA. Today we have 4. The new ones that are going into GA is ServiceNow and Google Analytics. We've also gotten feedback from customers that they want file ingestion. So we're prioritizing SharePoint and SFTP, both unstructured and structured data. And then in terms of feature depth, so that was the breadth. Depth, we want to provide more functionality when connecting to these connectors. So this is about query pushdown, so you can select the type of data you want. So not just the table or the column, you can actually put a little sort of predicate and say, I want this account or these 5 accounts that match this sort of regex or things like that. We're also going to do ACL ingestion. This is very useful for sort of RAG type use cases, row security level masking, things like that as well. Okay, I want to hand it off to Andreas.
Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to give you a quick overview of how we at Porsche Holding Salzburg leverage Lakeflow Connect to further drive our customer-centric use cases. For that, it is very important to first know who Porsche Holding Salzburg is, because it's not Porsche AG. We're not building cars. At Porsche Holding Salzburg, we shape the mobility of tomorrow. I'm just going to give you a short introduction about some facts of Porsche Holding Salzburg and Porsche Informatik before I'm going to tell you what I and my team are actually doing and how we leverage Lakeflow Connect. So Porsche Holding Salzburg, as mentioned, not building cars. We are Europe's largest and most successful automotive distributor and part of the Volkswagen Group. So that's what kind of brings us and Porsche AG together. Just last year, we sold almost 700,000 cars. We employ over 37,000 people worldwide. We own and operate roughly 500 dealerships, and we do this in 29 countries. We are structured in 4 business areas. So there's the automotive wholesale, where we import cars, the automotive retail, where we also service your cars. There's financial services, where we offer leasing or financing, and there's IT, where I work for Porsche Informatik. And at Porsche Informatik, we develop and deliver software and IT solutions for Porsche Holding and for the automotive industry and mobility solutions as such. We're roughly 1,000 employees, but we have over 180 solutions that we develop, maintain, and operate. And we have these solutions rolled out in over 140 different countries. We operate under these 4 principles down here. So we allow a seamless customer experience through customer-centric design and customer-centric data models. We ensure efficient and secure operations through standardized and scalable integrated IT. We make sure that everything is done at speed and with the necessary flexibility through agile co-creation and modular platform-based architecture. And we leverage opportunities, data and technology like AI-based data-driven models and cloud technologies. And now, so this was the what we do. Now, what does my team actually do? So we are a team of 8 very capable data scientists and data engineers. And we, on the one hand side, develop, operate, and maintain the Porsche Holding Salzburg's advanced data analytics platform, our core, basically, or our foundation for Porsche Holding for all the scalable data science and AI use cases. And Databricks, as you can see in the icon here, is basically the core of this platform. And what this platform allows us is to have really actionable insights through cutting-edge data science and AI models, right? We enable smart business use cases. We kind of support the democratization of AI and data at our company by providing ready-to-use sandbox environment that are also secure for our business departments where they can experience right there. And we allow with this platform really, really fast prototyping and really fast time to market. And all of this is enabling Porsche Holding to become a data-driven organization. And one of the use cases that is really outstanding and with a very high customer focus, and I'll come to the Lakeflow Connect right after that, is Project Scorpion, where we aim at increasing customer loyalty and after sales. So the goals are the 5 points that I wrote here on the right side, right? We want to increase customer satisfaction. We want to reduce customer churn. We want to reactivate lost customers. We want to generate individualized marketing campaigns. And we want to leverage upselling potential at the point of sales when you are at the dealerships. So all of these common problems, as you might think. And the key is here, okay, hyper-personalization. How can we, on top of having these amazing insights delivered from our core offering, from our data model, then use customer interaction data to further personalize the customer experience? So yeah, this is enabling our dealers to proactively invite the right customer for the right service at the right time. And yeah, the challenge, as I already mentioned briefly, was how to deliver these amazing insights that we generate out of this data model to the customers. So the goal was, okay, how do we break down the silos between our execution kind of things, where we use Salesforce, and the insights generation side of things on the right side. So we want to eliminate those silos and establish this scalable and unified data infrastructure between the CRM and the analytics platform. And as you can imagine, we leverage Lakeflow Connect to do so. So, and we also heard this in the keynote in the morning. So what Lakeflow Connect enables us to do is it helps me and my team to deliver added value for customers instead of spending this time and effort on developing and maintaining customer connector code. So it's worth mentioning that we are very capable of building these connectors and this code, but I rather want to have my team focus on really adding value and don't having to maintain all these solutions. I want them to have innovate and all that kind of stuff. what's very nice, but also what was mentioned already by Manish, it's governed with Unity Catalog, right? It's very efficient through serverless compute and DLT, or, well, this name is going to change tomorrow, but anyway, and it can be very easily deployed with asset bundles. And I can say it's really that easy how it looked like in the live demo. There's not much more to it. We have it run now for several months, and we didn't have a single hiccup or incident or anything to maintain. And by leveraging Lakeflow Connect, we were able to reduce and boost. So that sounds amazing already as it is, right? But what is actually very cool for us is that we were able to reduce and boost on both sides of the medallions, for the business and for the IT. For the business side of things, we were able to reduce the risk and cost for data connectivity, and we were able to boost the time for production, since it was that easy to build. And on the IT side of things, we were able to reduce the maintenance and the complexity of connecting the data, of ingesting the data, and we were able to boost really this adding value and focusing on innovation. This is a short quote from our success story that we did a while ago with Databricks. I just want to stress this number here. It is 85% faster developing with Lakeflow Connect versus this customer solution. This is really something that helped our business save valuable money in these times. And I believe this is my last slide. Yes. How do we continue from here? Porsche Holding success story. So tapping into the new opportunities now after successfully connecting this customer interaction data from Salesforce with the information stored in our data analytics platform, we can now boost innovation, we can sharpen customer focus, and we accelerate AI. How do we do this? We can now focus, as I already mentioned, on innovation versus spending valuable time on data ingestion and integration. We sharpen the customer focus to increase customer engagement and customer satisfaction. And last but not least, we accelerate AI and advanced analytics use cases by including this customer engagement data. So now we can really say, okay, when should we send this email to this customer? Morning, lunchtime, afternoon? How should we talk to him? So this is really helping us to go the last mile here. And that's it. Thank you very much. Manish?
Thank you. All right, so we're going to close up. So I think the main takeaway here is Lakeflow Connect is about efficient ingestion for everyone. So it's simple, it's unified, and it's efficient. Our roadmap is super iterative. So if you have feedback for us, talk to your account teams. We'd love to hear like what sources should we be adding, or what. So if we talk about breadth, or if we talk about depth, what are the things you want in the depth side? Are there sort of niche things on like a specific source that's bothering you that you struggle with? These are things that we want to take care of for you, so you can focus on creating value for your users and stuff like that. Okay, so there are a lot of talks. So Tuesday has gone, but these are all recorded. So there's a lot of Lakeflow Connect talks that happened yesterday. There's some happening today and tomorrow. I'm just going to call out a couple of them here. One is about ingesting unstructured data and then doing sort of like AI processing on it. So finding, like, you imagine like a PDF and scanning that PDF and getting all the sort of entities out of it, and then being able to store that as structured data. And then you can do analysis on it. So Adam and Jason are going to be doing that. I think that's happening actually right after this session. And then this one is actually the broader Lakeflow talk. So these are, Bilal and Michael are sort of our senior leaders on Lakeflow. So it'll be a super interesting conversation about where we're going with Lakeflow, what we're trying to do, a lot of vision, a lot of what we're building, things like that. And then tomorrow, I want to throw this one out. If you're doing things with streaming architectures where you may have message buses and things like this, this talk will be pretty interesting. We're looking at ways of simplifying these architectures. So Victoria and Nicola will share some new things that we're working on that might make your sort of infrastructure stack a lot simpler. So I'll ask everyone, we love feedback. We want to do better. So if there's things that you would like to see us change or things that you liked, let us know. We learned from this. And then there's also some continuing learning options here, so you can scan that QR code for self-paced type learning. And that's all.